One of my favorite types of games are called roguelike. Even though I'm not an absolute fan of them, I'm already wasting my life on Dota 2. I enjoy playing them occasionally. If I have to describe what it is in a few words, then it'll be something like this. You die over and over until you finally get it right this time, thanks to RNG Jesus or your godlike gamer skills. In all seriousness, roguelike games are not like your average AAA game. They have unique features and game mechanics compared to them. One of these game mechanics is known as permanent death. In other words, you start from the beginning if you die. You might be asking what's so fun about starting all over again. And you might be right. Being forced to start all over from the beginning sucks. But roguelike games do it in a way that is actually fun. They use something called procedural generation, basically a random map generator. But it does not only apply to the map. To an extent, some games will decide to randomize the items you will find, the enemies you will encounter, the location of secrets, and etc. This means that more or less, you will never have the same run twice. This is ironically the reason why some people believe that roguelikes are only luck-based. This is not really true, but you will obviously perform better in your run if you find a godlike weapon rather than a trash one. Some games have found a solution to this problem of luck deciding the outcome of your run. For example, one of them is being able to buy items from a merchant so that you can finally stop praying to RNG Jesus every time you start a new game. Another one is the ability to upgrade the statistics of your character or items such as health, attack, or defense. Some games also allow you to unlock new items or characters for your next run. They mostly do this in two distinct ways. The first one is to unlock them via some kind of currency that you gain by playing the game. Most roguelikes will give you this special currency after you defeat a boss to incentivize you to play until the end, even if you have a shitty run. Because hey, you won't be able to complete the game, but at least you get enough coins to buy the next upgrade or items that you've been looking forward to. The second one is by completing specific criteria. To illustrate what I mean, let's say for example that I've killed 300 enemies with a sniper rifle, without using the scope. I unlock the legendary sniper rifle, the no scope penetrator for my next run, or I can play with the new character, the sniper. I am pretty much done with the introduction. Now I'll analyze some roguelike and try to understand how they incentivize the players to keep playing and try to explain how they are not entirely luck-based. Beep! Hello, this is me from the future, or the past. I don't know, dude. But before I continue the video, I want to precise that recently I've learned that most of the games that I've shown during the video are actually called roguelites. They are basically roguelike-like. They're not real, or at least they are not defined as roguelike by definition. But they take inspiration from it. Yeah. I still consider a roguelite as a roguelike. And to be honest, I don't really care. It's not like anyone cares about the difference. I mean, just look at this screenshot. They are by far the most popular type of roguelike games. I mean, you have Dead Cell, Hades, Enter the Gungeon, Skull, and much more. Out of all the roguelikes I've played, many of them were skill-based. The one thing they all have in common is being able to attack enemies and dodge their attacks. Each one of them has its own twist on this basic formula. For example, with Dead Cell, you have different weapons with unique effects. You can have a giant fucking sword that deals a lot of damage, but it's slow, daggers that deal critical damage on the third hit, or a sword that deals critical damage when you hit the back of your enemies, inciting you to dodge behind them. Plus, you can find items that can help you during the run, such as bombs, molotov, turrets, or traps, without including the scrolls that can expand one of your three main stats. Skill is pretty similar to Dead Cell, but your attacks and skills are tied to the type of skill you are using. You can equip two of them, allowing you to make unique combos. As for Enter the Gungeon, that one is different. It's a mix between shooting and dodging. You're basically shooting at things, paying attention to your aiming while dodging the incoming bullets. But you must also be extra careful of your positioning, hoping that your brain will not have a meltdown. Hey, that's just like a bullet hell game. Bullet hell are games where you have to dodge a shit ton of bullets coming your way while beating a boss. I love them because I'm a narcissist gamer who loves challenges and loves to brag about his insane gamer skill. Did I tell you that I've beaten all the Toho games? Well, now you know. Shit, I'm so fucking stupid. Back to the topic. I obviously enjoy this mix of bullet hell and roguelike in Enter the Gungeon. Plus, you also have to manage your ammunition, as all weapons have a different maximum capacity, except for your starter one, who has unlimited ammo. Stronger weapons tend to have less bullets, while the weaker one has a higher capacity. You clearly want to use your big fucking gun against bosses or strong enemies rather than the classic runs. The management of resources is not really a priority on the skill-based roguelike, except for the healing items, which are limited in numbers. But hey, it's a welcoming surprise when it's done right, as you will have to think if you really want to use that precious strong item for later, or use it right now to survive a few more minutes. Before I finish this chapter, I must say the obvious, but your progression in skill-based roguelike is directly tied on how well you play the game. Items are here to help you progress, but they will never carry you run if you play like a cow. Theoretically, you could finish any of them without collecting any items and with only the starter items, if you're like a god, or if you have too much free time in your hands. In other words, in skill-based roguelike, the main element to progress is your own skill. When you are new to these games, you will not be able to progress far, but the more you play it, and the better you become at it, the further you will progress until you reach the point where you can finally beat the final boss and complete the game. The strategy roguelike games, unlike the skill-based one, doesn't really require skill in the sense that you will need to learn every pattern of an enemy or use your insane reflex to dodge. But you will need to use your brain in order to make the right decision for each situation and not break under the tenser one. For this chapter, I will talk about FTL as it's the only game I know that fits this category and the only one I need, to be honest. FTL is wonderful. It's one of those easy to learn but complex to master game. The goal of the game is simple. You are an officer from the Federation, and your goal is to go to the capital of the Federation in order to stop the rebel and destroy their flagship, which acts as a final boss. To reach the capital, you will need to go to Sector 8. Each sector is composed of multiple nodes. One of the nodes acts as an exit to go to the next sector. You can travel freely between them, but it costs fuel, and the rebel fleet pursuing you will move closer towards you. So you have to keep an eye on your fuel and be careful to not let the rebel fleet catch you. On a node, you will encounter one of the following: a random event that will grant you a reward, a fight against another ship, or a punishment, depending on your choices, if there are any, because sometimes you won't have a choice. You can also get a random fight against a ship, or in the worst case scenario, there will be absolutely nothing at the node. That's the main encounters. There are multiple weapons in the game. You have your normal classic laser that can deal damage, but they don't penetrate the shield, meaning that if your enemy has a 3-layered shield, you'll need a laser that can shoot 4 times in a volley to damage them. You also have your missile weapons, which can pierce shields, but they use ammunitions, and they can be shot out by drones. There is also beams, which are like huge lasers that can only pierce shield if their damage is higher than the total layers of shields. For example, if your enemy has 2 layers of shield, you'll need a 3 damage beam to pierce it. And finally, there are drones, who can be used for defense or offensive purposes, such as protecting you from incoming missile, or to bombard your enemies with laser shot or boarding drones. However, you need a drone system to use them, and not every ship starts with it, so you might have to buy it from a merchant if you want to use them. As for your ship, you can control every crewmate inside it. They will perform actions depending on what is going on in a room. If there is an enemy, they will fight it. If the room is on fire or need to be repaired, they will extinguish or repair it. If they can man a system, they will do it and grant a buff to that specific system. It's also worth noting that each race has its own bonus. For example, the Mantis, these giant insectoid creatures, have increased damage outputs in melee, making them perfect for boarding enemy ships or protecting yours. But in return, their repair speed is halved, making them the worst ways to repair ships. Inside your ship, you have multiple systems, such as the shield, the weapons room, the engine, and etc. You can upgrade each system. For example, upgrading the weapons room will allow you to use more powerful weapons. The shield room allows you to block more shots from the enemies. But you also must upgrade your reactors to allocate more powers for these newly acquired upgrades. It's also important to know that there is only one currency in the game, known as scraps. It's what you use to upgrade your ship and to buy stuff from the merchants. Having this as the only currency creates a really interesting dilemma, such as, do I use my scraps to upgrade my shield system, or do I buy this powerful weapon from that merchant that is selling it? If you've understood my blabbering, I congratulate you. But if you did not, don't worry, I'm not the greatest teacher around here. But what I'm getting at is that the mechanics in this game are not hard. They're quite easy to learn and to understand. But in order to be good at the game, you need to think a little bit for each decisions you make, and to learn from your mistakes. Otherwise, you'll never beat the final boss. Heck, you'll probably never reach him in the first place if you're doing garbage decisions. As you probably guessed, FTL is also a resource management game, and this part is crucial to your progression and survival. Knowing when to spend your resources is important. For example, if you don't spend your scraps to upgrade or buy better weapons for your ship, you'll be hit by a spaceship truck because you will reach a point where you are too weak. However, if you spend them carelessly, you will not be able to buy that cool looking weapon or repair your ship when you need it because you lack the funds. Scraps is not the only resources that you have to manage carefully. You have to be careful on your fuel consumption while exploring as much as you can, and not to end yourself stuck in the middle of space. You also have to be careful on your ammunition and drone usage, to not end up in a situation in which you can't destroy a ship due to not having any more ammunition or drone. Yeah, in other words, you have to find the balance between using your resources and saving them, so you don't land up in situations in which you need these resources, but you don't have any more because you waste everything recklessly. Taking decisions is another important factor of the strategy roguelike. Let's face it, the decisions you make when you're new and learning a game are garbage. But the more you play it, the more you understand how the game works, the more general knowledge you accumulate, the better you will be at making the right decisions. Let's say that we are fighting an enemy ship, and my laser weapon can damage it, because it has too many layers of shield. The only weapon that can deal damage with is my missile launcher. The logical thing to do would be to use it to destroy his shield system, so that my laser can damage the ship, and then not use missile again to conserve ammunition. But upon inspecting the enemy ship, I realized that he has multiple missile launcher, making my shield useless. Realizing that I would sustain a lot of damage from the incoming missile, I decided to focus on the weapon system first, and then the shield before destroying the ship as quickly as possible to minimize the damage I will receive. Being able to analyze and adapt to any situation is necessary, and something that you will learn the more you play the game. Consider this as a skill of strategy game, as knowledge and the ability to use the brain correctly determine how good you are at the game. Luck may help or hinder you during a run, but they do not determine the outcome of your adventure. They can only destroy your run if you fail to adapt to it or if you have absolute bad luck. However, I might agree that you maybe need some luck to unlock new ships, as you need to encounter certain events in specific sectors, with specific criteria. And don't get me started on the crystal ship, in which you need more than god tier like luck to obtain it. To be honest, just use your guide if you want to unlock new ships. It will be less painful. In other words, strategy roguelike games rely on your ability to use your brain to analyze the situation and to find the best solution to that problem. Luck is only here to help you in your adventure or create a challenge. Shit! I actually have no idea what to talk about next. Hey! Where do you think you are? Use the goddamn door like any normal person. You do have a point. Do you mind telling me what you are doing here then? Hey, that's actually a good suggestion. Thanks, mate. The Consuming Shadow is an interesting game. You have to shoot, kick, and try to dodge your enemies, but it's not the heart of the game. You also have to manage resources such as your cash, health, and your own sanity. You can use spell by associating symbols, but they consume your sanity bar. You can try random combination to find a spell, but I suggest you not to do that. The less sanity you have, the weirder things will get around you. Yet, it's not a strategy-based game. It's kind of a combination of both skill and strategy without having a real focus on one of them. Some sort of jack of all trades if you want. The story of the game so far is like this. You're some kind of agent working for the Ministry of Occults, or something like that, and you're tasked with preventing the invasion of our realm by an evil eldritch god. To do so, you will need to go to Stonehenge before 60 hours has passed, and seal the evil god away. However, there is one tiny little problem. You don't know what is the incantation to seal the god, and most importantly, you actually don't know which gods are involved, their associations, and which one is the invader in this incident. That's why you will need to collect clues before attempting the ritual. We'll find them in dungeons, which are located in cities corrupted by the shadows. The incantation ritual, the involvement of each god, and the clues are randomized at the start of a new game. I believe this mechanic is what makes this game shines from other roguelike. It's like playing a randomly generated Cluedo, but instead of solving a murder, you're fighting eldritch entities. Sure, the game has its flaws, such as the combat mechanic being tedious in my opinion, or the game being reliant to some extent on luck in order to find dungeons so that you can find your clues. In one of my runs, I will have to make huge detours to try to find corrupted cities, because I've almost reached Stone Age without having enough clues. And sometimes I will find clues that were helpful as a blind man driving a car. Putting these flaws aside, I think the game is an enjoyable experience. The exploration is fun and rewarding, and you can encounter random events while traveling from city A to B. Some of them are simple messages that grant you a quest, a reward, or some weird shenanigans. Oh shit, Grandma wants to beat the shit out of the children. While some of them are events with multiple choices and outcome, with your classic excellent choice if you have this specific item in your inventory. But as I said earlier, the best thing about this game is the deduction part. It's satisfying piecing all the pieces together. And one thing that I've realized recently that is pretty cool is that you can detect some hints by paying attention to the details. For example, in one of my runs, I met a cultist in Stonehenge casting yellow runes. Stonehenge being the final dungeon, I assumed that the invading god was associated with the color yellow. And it was correct to my delight. Maybe it was a coincidence, but I'm sure it wasn't, as it was not the first time. If you're not a chicken and love Lovecraftian theme thingy, I highly suggest you to play this game. The investigation-oriented gameplay really make it a unique and fun game, despite some flaws. Besides, it's not that expensive, 10 euros. I believe it's clearly worth your money. I wish more games would prioritize more unique concepts. If you know more of them, don't hesitate to tell me in the comments, please. Yeah, the video is almost over. What I've been trying to say in this video was basically to discuss the differences between the different types of roguelike games, how they incentivize the player to play, and why luck is not a determining factor to win your game. Although I have to admit that the third part of this video was thrown together, my point still stands. I wish more roguelike games would try to revolve around these more unique mechanics, rather than skill or strategy. I suppose they do exist, but I probably don't know of their existence. Now, the difficult thing about being an indie is that people only know about the successful one, but they don't pay attention to the pile of corpses from the less successful.